Hello and welcome to the Tennessee Informer. Thank you all for being with us tonight. The recent horrific attacks that we've all seen take place at the Bondi Beach in Sydney, Australia is just another reminder that a guaranteed way to endanger your society and way of life is to allow Muslims to immigrate there in any substantial number. It also shows what is meant by the term globalize the intifada, that you hear the pro-Palestinian crowd chant. It's basically a call to attack Jews wherever you can find them. But for those of you that don't know, the same ideological death cult that kills Jews when able is also killing Christians in Nigeria in very large numbers. This, of course, is nothing new for those of us that are familiar with Islamic doctrine. They've been doing these things for nearly 1,400 years. Should authorities have been better prepared? Are most police officers as slow to act as the police appeared to be on that day? What's the government there doing to counter the Islamist threat? Do they even acknowledge the threat it poses? Or are they as clueless and complicit as our government appears to be? Our guest tonight is from Australia. His name is Greg Hearn. He is with CSPII, which is the Center for the Study of Political Islam International, an organization founded by Tennessee's own Bill Warner, who has written extensively about the threat of Islam both here and abroad. We're proud to have Greg as our guest tonight on the show tonight. And actually, we had Bill Warner a few months ago, and glad to have him as well. But before we get to Greg, first we have the Informer Report. Trump expands the travel ban to 39 countries. This is a good thing since most of those 39 countries either have substantial Muslim terrorist populations or have inadequate systems or policies in place for vetting. Unfortunately, it doesn't apply to current visa holders, and there are some other exceptions, but it should still slow the flow. In response to the murder at Brown University and MIT, the Trump administration suspended the Green Card Diversity Program, which should have never existed. That's another positive step for our country. In other good news, the Trump administration is dismantling the National Center for Atmospheric Research in Boulder, Colorado, known for its climate change alarmist tendencies. Legitimate weather studies will be moved to other entities or locations. In a win for sanity and decency, the Trump's Secretary of Health, Robert Kennedy Jr., announced that hospitals participating in Medicare and Medicaid would be barred from performing sex change procedures on anyone under 18. Great news, but what a sick statement that it is about our country that this was happening to begin with, and that states have allowed it. Federal spending is still dangerously out of control, and all the money that is being printed increases inflation. This further adds to the issue of affordability, which is the latest buzzword in politics and will definitely be an issue in the midterms. The Congressional Budget Office, CBO, recently announced that just the interest cost on our debt exceeded $1 trillion for the first time this year. Whether we realize it or not, our debt is one of the biggest threats to our country. We really can't MAGA if we don't get our debt under control. The Trump administration continues to sink drug boats. That's what they claim they are. And they have now captured not two, but apparently three tankers from Venezuela, or they were in pursuit of a third tanker as of earlier this evening. Russia has deployed nuclear subs to the region. Venezuela is apparently allied not only with Russia, but China as well. This could get ugly to say the least. No matter what you think about Venezuela, Maduro, or Trump, our country allegedly operates under a constitution. That constitution was designed deliberately by the founders not to allow the president to be the sole decision maker on whether or not we have a war, or to create a situation to get us in a war by committing acts of war or aggression. One of the lessons from British history and world history in general was that a king or queen's ability to declare war or create a situation that leads to war could ruin a country. That's why only Congress can declare war and or take lesser measures as needed. It doesn't have to go all the way to declaring a full war. The first four presidents followed that restriction. Even James Monroe, the fifth president and author of the Monroe Doctrine, often erroneously cited as a declaration that the U.S. would intervene in any conflict or threaten the Western Hemisphere, followed this mindset of non-intervention and deference to Congress. But since we may end up in a conflict there, I would encourage you to visit the 10th Amendment Center and read about the true meaning of the doctrine in a recent article. Once again, what we are told and what the truth is are at odds. That wraps up this installment of the Informer Report. If you have a news story that you want to alert us to, be sure to send us an email at tninformer.tv@gmail.com. Before we bring on our special guest tonight, here's a message from our sponsor, LifeWave, a unique product that uses light reflection to activate the body's own natural energy, supporting healing, improving performance, and combating aging without drugs or stimulants. Check it out and we'll be right back.
Light, the energy of life itself. Since the beginning of time, light has sustained us, fueled our growth, and shaped the world. Even Einstein recognized that everything we are is made of light. But what if we could harness the light within us, not just to live, but to renew, restore, and rejuvenate? Introducing LifeWave X39, the first product in the world that activates stem cells using our body's own light. Backed by clinical research, multiple patents, and over 10 years of stem cell research, a revolutionary wearable light technology that unlocks the power of activating our own stem cells with a single, safe, affordable, non-transdermal patch that puts you back in control of how you look, feel, and perform. Unlike drugs or chemicals, X39 works naturally, awakening your body's ability to heal and thrive. It's time to unlock your full potential, restore your vitality, and embrace a healthier, more vibrant you.
Welcome back. And now to our guest, Greg Hearn. Remember, his opinions are his and mine are mine, although I doubt there will be much disagreement on this episode. How you doing tonight?
Great, thanks, Dave. Thanks for having us on, and hello, viewers.
Yeah, well, hey, I thank you for being with us. Glad to have you. Let's go ahead and get started. I mentioned CSPII in the opening. How and why did you get involved with CSPII?
Well, I think it really goes back to 9/11. About a week after 9/11, I was in my office. So we have a little foyer, a couple of TVs, and I was on my way through. We had a lovely presenter, Kerry Ann, and the TVs stopped. And they stopped on George W. Bush standing up in front of the world media. And he read out that Islam's been hijacked. Islam's a religion of peace. And he opened up a bit of paper, chapter 5, verse 33 of the Quran. He who saves a life saves all mankind. And I thought, well, that's pretty all right, but what the hell happened last week? And I thought maybe he's playing his cards close to his chest, or maybe he didn't know. And through the years, I was a father, and I needed to be able to find out what's going on with this. This is a world-changing event. Did a bit of reading, bit of YouTubes, and after about 10 years, it was pointed out to me, chapter 5, verse 33. We had 3 sentences there. We had another 3 sentences there. And chapter 5, verse 33 says, whoever causes corruption in the land should be crucified, have opposite hands and feet cut off, and banished from the land. I kind of made out that was in the wrong order, but that's pretty severe.
Yeah.
Why didn't George Bush pick up on this? Why didn't his minders pick up on this? And I was very concerned, and I thought, well, I've got to find out about it. I ran across CSPII's work, and they cut the religion away, and they used the scope of their work to be the political parts of Islam,
yep,
the parts that affect me and my family. And when I started to read that, I was very concerned. people I ran into contact with had no idea. There was a lot of pushback that Islam's a religion of peace, Islam's been hijacked, and that narrative didn't seem right for me. So it made it very easy for me to look for ways to get involved rather than just being a keyboard warrior arguing with people. I thought I've got to do something a bit more where I can leverage my time for greater value. And a bill reached out for people to get involved in our global organisation, and I thought, yep, I'm on board, and here we are.
I think George Bush's whole peaceful religion thing, that really did a disservice to our country and to the world. Really do. I think it really undermined. And you mentioned the political aspect. I think something like 51% of the Quran, or maybe it's all of the Islamic doctrine together, is really about the political aspect of it. It's not about, okay, how to be a better Muslim per se. It's how to treat non-Muslims, which, oh, by the way, is not too good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And when you say 51%, it is of the Quran and it is of the Hadith, which is Muhammad's perfect life. And you think, well, 51% is an arbitrary number, but what CSPI has done, they've counted every word of both books. The Quran's not a huge book,
right?
But it's 14% of the doctrine. The Hadith, Muhammad's life's 86%. This is a Quran we have here. You can imagine seven of those, Muhammad's life, and every verse has been allocated to the non-Muslim component, and it does come up as 51%. So it is about us. Yeah. An interesting thing, I remember when I was at school, we did legal studies, and the first thing we heard was ignorance is no excuse. And I think that'd be the same in America as well.
I don't know that I've actually heard it in school, but hey, that's true when it comes to the law. If you break a law, they don't care that you didn't realize it was a law.
Yeah. So this is where the Quran and the Hadiths come into play, because they're the foundation of Islamic law, Sharia, as it's known. So if our leaders, whether it be politics, religion, education, law, finance, they don't know about Islam, it's their duty to know about it, because ignorance is no excuse.
Yeah. And it's a threat doctrine. Yeah. It should be obvious by now that that's a threat doctrine. I remember back during the Cold War, in school in America, they still taught us the difference between our system and the communist system and why communists were a threat. And obviously they taught that in the military, and I would assume law enforcement got some level of training. If nothing else, we had the FBI at the time, still a decent organization, I guess looking for communists within our country. So anything else in your background that relevant or that you want to let the audience know about?
Oh, yeah, look, I think through my life, I'm a bit of a contrarian. When people go off in this direction and believe and hear and believe the narrative, I'm sort of poking off around the outskirts, trying to find some interesting bits, because not everything's perfect. And I think I've lived my life that way. It sort of takes me away from the crowd, but it's always interesting and a bit of fun, and it's taken me to political Islam, which is probably is the most important thing I've ever done in my life. So I'm looking forward to being successful at it and being able to help our teammates, whether it be within CSPII or people that are looking for the true nature of Islam. Whoever kicks the goal, it doesn't matter, whether it be me or one of the people we're involved in, it's important somebody kicks the goal.
Absolutely.
If you know what I mean.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you lived there in Australia. Were you surprised by the recent attacks?
No. What's happened here in Australia, and it's been in the newspapers, there's a group here called Hizbut Tahrir. And Australia's been invited to join Islam. Hizbut Tahrir upped the ante and were arguing and telling all hateful sorts of things. And one guy was taken off to court. And then the natural progression to that is violence. Now, why wasn't I surprised? Well, that follows Muhammad's perfect example. Muhammad's perfect example is to have beautiful, assuaging talk, invite people to join Islam, ingratiate himself with them, and give them the opportunity to become a brother or sister within the Islamic community. Now, if they don't, Islam then argues the point and can be quite heated. A good example of this was a guy called Jordan Peterson.
Right.
He was having conversations with Muhammad Hijab. And at the start, Muhammad Hijab was calling him Dr. Peterson, very, very wonderfully speaking with him. And through the conversation, Muhammad picked up on the idea that Jordan Peterson was very open, and he asked him to join Islam. And Dr. Peterson very firmly said, "Thank you very much, but no thank you." And then he was called Peterson. His doctorate was ignored, and his tenor towards Dr. Peterson during the interview changed. But you look a bit surprised there, but this is the modus operandi of Islam. Nice conversation, argumentative, and then violence.
Yeah.
So it goes back to
Make
Muhammad.
you an offer you can't refuse, right?
Yes. It goes back to Muhammad. This is how he operated. The famous, when he went to Medina, he left Mecca, went to Medina. They took him in. He set himself up in a mosque and started to gain some traction and followers, etc. And then he went to the 3 Jewish tribes, which is about half of Medina. He asked each of them to join. They all refused him. And then the idea was that he set in place between the Jewish tribes some political activists who would cause enmity between them. Now, the Jewish tribes are never close, but they were never at war. I think if you speak to a Jewish people, if you have 4 Jewish people in a conversation, you'll have 5 different opinions. That's something that, have you heard that before?
I haven't heard it, but
okay. Well,
they're definitely not all of the same. They're not all of the same mind. That's for sure.
That's it, and that's all about asking questions, etc. So what he did was he set in place people between the different tribes that caused enmity. When the time was right, he attacked one of the tribes, defeated them. The other 2 tribes got together and said, "Hey, listen, we know what's going on here. He's going to attack us. Not sure which one, but if he attacks you, I'll stand up for you," and vice versa. And what happened was Muhammad then went and attacked a second Jewish tribe. The 3rd Jewish tribe sat back with the idea of, wait till both have weakened themselves down to a point where we can come in, swoop in, and win the day. But the victory was short and sweet. So the 3rd Jewish tribe was left on their own, and they submitted to Muhammadan Islam. So this is the way that Islam has operated for 1400 years, following Muhammad's perfect example. And as we were talking there, that's the same sort of process. So Australia has been asked, they've been argued with, and now violence.
So you say Australia's been asked. So they've asked a spokesman from the Muslim group there has gone on, basically asked the nation of Australia to join them, or exactly how have they done that?
Oh, they'll do that through political means. It might be a conversation with the Prime Minister. This happened before 9/11. America was asked to join Islam. They rejected, and from that, arguments, which we've seen here in Australia, and then the violence. So whether it's done overtly in front of all of the media or done behind closed doors,
Right.
it's the first step. And so it's nice talk. It's nice talk in your neighbourhood. It's nice talk at your schools, your councils, and it's nice talk through government officials, etc. And the government officials here are all approached. They're all known to the Islamic community, and they go through a process called dawah. Are you familiar with that at all?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So dawah is about ingratiating yourself to Islam, inviting the people to be friendly, and making it easy for good and wonderful relations, with the objective of becoming a member of the Islamic community.
How many Muslims are in Australia? What percentage of the population are they?
I've seen figures of 3%. Might end up being about 800,000. So our population's about 26 million. But they're very, very loud, very vocal. They congregate in various political electorates. So when the elections are on, it's the old story: the squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Yeah.
And all parties believe that they've got a hope of being able to get the vote from that community. Now, the point about it is, if you understand the goal of Islam, the goal of Islam is to dominate, take over the world, and have everybody submit to it. So a centre-right, through your channel here, you've got centre-right leanings and tendencies, which is great. Christianity.
I've never been accused of being centre, but thank you.
Okay. Well, it's all a matter of perspective, really, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah, but the idea is that Christian Judeo values are something that is opposite to Islam.
Right.
So whether the conversation is nice, assuaging, and gives hope of votes is contrary to what would be the fact. There was an imam we had over here, Tawhidi. He was speaking with a guy, Dinesh D'Souza, from over your way.
Yeah.
And he made it very, very clear the jihadist Muslim community would never vote for the centre-right. They would always vote for the left side of politics. Yep. And the reason being is that it is against the centre-right side of things.
And I think a lot of people in this country don't understand that, because we do have some sizable Muslim populations in certain parts of the country, and on social issues they tend to be conservative. And there's some people in the conservative movement that think, hey, they're a good fit for us. They're socially conservative. And I'm like, no. You don't want that. And granted, they have aligned themselves with the far left in this country, but there are still some people on the right who think, oh no, we can work with them. And I'm like, you guys are insane. You don't understand what their doctrine is. I'm just curious, how many attacks by Islamists against Jews or Christians have there been prior to this? Actual attacks.
Well, attacks on people, look, I really haven't followed that too much, but I know there's been mosques burnt down, cars destroyed. I was in an area north of Melbourne where there was a Jewish community, families and businesses.
You said a mosque burned down?
October
Sorry? You said a mosque was burnt down?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But the Jewish community out the north of Melbourne, they were effectively chased out. I spoke to a rabbi over in the Jewish hub of Melbourne. He said he's been having families come to him in tears. They've lost their businesses, they've lost their homes. The Jews had been eradicated from the north of Melbourne, and that is what they call a pogrom.
Right. Right.
They may not have been killed, but they've been chased out through violence, threats of violence, etc.
So there is some resistance, though, if a mosque was burnt down, or was that a group of Muslims that burn another mosque feeling like those Muslims were not sufficiently radical enough, or what?
Sorry, did I say mosque was burnt down?
Yeah, you said a mosque was burnt down. That's why.
Oh, sorry. A
church or synagogue.
No, a synagogue.
Okay.
A synagogue.
Okay.
Yeah, you're asking me the question about. You're asking me the questions about the Jewish population in the synagogue. There's lots of examples about that. Swastikas put on synagogues, people's homes, etc., etc. It's been very, very nasty, and that is the nasty language. That's the hardness of Islam. The second stage. After the second stage becomes the violence.
So what's the government done about it so far?
Oh, lots. Mr. Albanese has recently been talking about an anti-Semitism report. Anti-Semitism report talks about anti-Islamophobia report. It talks about the hatred towards Islam, Islamophobia. And the great thing that was in that report that really stands out for us is education. It's mentioned 60 times through the report. And if we could have a bit of a conversation about that after this next bit. It talks about how the non-Muslim people need to be educated about Islam. And
well, they just got an education about 2 weeks ago, if they were paying any attention.
Yeah.
So let me make sure I understand this. They kill, what, 15 people, injured 25? And
40 odd, yeah.
And the response is to focus on Islamophobia.
Okay, so after the Bondi shootings, the conversation went to guns. Now, Australia's been unarmed since 1990s, I think it was. And so the conversation to guns, which are farmers and recreational shooters. So these are not the people that attended to the Bondi shootings. The other thing that's very concerning is hate speech laws. And that's very much in line with Sharia, Islamic law, Sharia. Under Sharia, they talk about slander. So slander under Sharia law is anything that can be said to or behind a follower of the Islamic doctrine's back, which would cause them to feel bad or offended. That slander is against the law under Sharia. Now, Australia bringing in hate speech laws into existence here basically makes it very difficult for me to ask hard questions about Islam, okay, or followers of the Islamic doctrine. So that's something that has only just happened. I'm not sure how far that's going to extend. And what I'll be very mindful of as we go through our meeting today is to watch my P's and Q's and be very mindful, because they could apply to me. And what can happen and does happen in Europe amongst our European colleagues, if they get a little bit outside the scope of their work or their conversation, they dragged off to court. There may be nothing in it in terms of hate speech. They may be found innocent. But at the end of the day, we've got nobody to protect us in terms of the financing of legal legals to help us.
So you could still be brought before a court for what they consider hate speech.
Yeah, if that happens 2 or 3 times and you spend tens of thousands of dollars on it, there's a limit to how much you're going to be able to cope with.
Yeah.
And in a family, your first obligation's to your family. But if your family's being hit for hit for a lot of money. What do you do? What
What,
do you
what,
do?
what,
So these hate speech laws are basically going to stop the conversation on Islam.
do you know yet if that would mean that you couldn't actually just repeat what Muhammad has said and what they have laid out as he's supposedly the perfect Muslim. So I would think that you could at least read about what he said and what he did. I mean, that's not hate speech. That's just recording what's been said in their doctrine.
Well, this freedom of speech you have over there in America is pretty wonderful and fantastic. You should really appreciate it.
Okay.
It's the idea of the hate speech there is that if it makes a a follower of the Islamic doctrine, feel offended, feel abused, feel put down, that's enough. That's enough to cause a question. Maybe somebody being dragged before the court to answer that question. So that's concerning. We haven't gone through all of the detail, much of the detail at all about it, but this is, as we were talking before the show, I think, there was a lady in Melbourne. She put a post on her Facebook about a rally, and the police charged into her home. She was in her pajamas. She was pregnant. She had a little kid there and a husband, and they dragged her off and arrested her for putting a post on Facebook. And this is before these new hate speech laws are. So where it's going to end, it's very concerning. It doesn't really address the Quran and the Hadith and Sunnah of Muhammad. What it does is it tells everybody to shut up.
Now, we talked a little bit Saturday, and you mentioned about the education in your country really since 2001, yes. Which the way you described it to me, it sounds more like indoctrination, but can we talk about that a little bit? And that's me saying it's indoctrination. It's not you. So.
Oh yes, thank you. Okay. Okay, so it goes back to 9/11. We've done a research, and I'll just give you the history of it because it's really interesting, I believe. 9/11, the politicians in Australia said, what the hell happened? Why did it happen? Who did it? What caused it? We don't know what's going on. We've got to find out about it. So they have a thing, a secretary, and it's called Hansard. Hansard's a book where all the nuances and innuendo and conversations that are presented in front of Parliament are recorded. Now, these records note that education on Islam, Muhammad, Sharia, the Hadiths, all need to be educated. We all need to be educated on this. We need to know what's going on. Our schools and our universities, it's critical that they have these subjects included. Fantastic. Okay, so the politicians have made these calls. Now, okay, so what happened of recent times, about 3 years ago now, a young school teacher in the northern suburbs of Melbourne came into class with a picture of Muhammad. Okay. Now, you know what happened with Charlie Hebdo.
Yep.
Okay, so he brought it in with the idea of free speech conversation. Unbeknownst to him, one of his class was deeply offended, young follower of the Islamic doctrine, young girl. And she brought this home to mum and dad. Mum and dad were deeply offended, who took it to the mosque, who were deeply offended, who took it to the media, who took it to the education department. What the hell's going on here? And they've got to deal with this. So we got hold of it and we said, okay, we know exactly why it's happened. You can't blaspheme Muhammad by drawing a picture of him. That's against the Sharia. So we've gone to the education department. We've got a meeting, and we went through our education, how we could help all the teachers in Victoria, around Australia, understand this so it doesn't happen again. And I said, right, we're on, aren't we? And they said, look, great idea, but no, thank you. And I said, well, what's going on there? And he said, well, we've got all of the key Islamic people in Australia on speed dial. And we've also got people within our organisation that who are of the Islamic faith. And if they get a sniff that they've been undermined or second guessed, that will rock the boat. So we don't want to do that. I spoke to somebody high up in politics on the education department, and she said everybody should be held to account. Everybody should be responsible for what they teach. So that led us into some research. And we thought, okay, well, what are we going to research? We're going to research education since 2001 to the present time. And what we found was the curriculum was a Quran. It was a special Quran. It was a special Quran that was geared towards the nice bits of Islam, and there are some nice bits in there, but it very much avoids the harsh bits.
Right.
From that, but we also went in and looked at the exams. 21 years, now 22 years of exams. So it's 10 questions per year, 220 questions over that 22-year period of time. And we looked at the questions in terms of their direction on us, how we are to be managed, how we're to be subjugated and violence towards us. But we found 98.5% of the questions were all about peace, tolerance, love, and kumbaya of Islam.
Right.
And that whole research stood out to us, that all of the people going through these courses, and there's not a lot that study Islam.
Right.
But one thing's for sure, when governments and departments and law and finance and trade are looking for experts on Islam, the standout students through those years are going to get the positions, and they're going to get the inaccurate, incomplete information of Islam.
Let me ask you something real quick. Let me ask you real quick. Is there anything in Australia, whether in the schools or otherwise, about, okay, if somebody were to blaspheme Christ, or make fun of Christ or any other religion, is there anything that protects any other religious leader from being blasphemed or put down or whatever? Anything like that? Or is it just for the Muslims? Is it just that you can't insult Muhammad?
Dave,
I know the answer, but I'm just curious.
Oh, I'll tell you. I'll tell you. I've been around many of the municipalities around Melbourne, and one of the wonderful things they have is litter bins, so people can put their refuse into. And around Christmas time, they put posters, "Merry Christmas" on the rubbish tins. I don't know, does that tell you anything?
Yeah.
And it's a sad state of affairs. It's a sad state of affairs because not too many people stand up and say anything about it or do anything about it. The question comes about around the holy time of Ramadan or Eid. I wonder if those same rubbish bins will be adorned with posters saying "Happy Ramadan."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Back to the attack.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on? And granted, from what we're hearing over here, it sounds like that the law enforcement on site didn't necessarily react the way that you would think somebody would react in that situation. But you're there, you know more about the situation. What are your thoughts about the initial response by law enforcement to the attack?
Look, that's a tough question. Australia's population's been disarmed many years ago. Our police force are armed with handguns. So they're up against, from what I understand, 6 guns. They're all long firearms. What do they do? It's very, very difficult. Having high-powered weapons in the mix of things. I believe a couple of the police officers moved forward and were taken out. You know, we're not in a situation where we have a lot of gun violence in Australia. However, we have a population of people who cannot defend themselves.
Right.
So from a police point of view, they were there.
But they're not well armed. They just have sidearms. They don't have ARs or AKs or anything like that. They just have sidearms.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
look, the men and women of the police force, they did what they could do. There was a bystander who charged. Did you see the video of the bystander who tackled? Yeah. Okay. So he's a hero. He tackled the guy, disarmed the guy, took the gun away, pointed the gun at the guy. The guy was able to move away. He's taken the gun and put it against a tree.
why did he do that? Why did he put the gun down?
That's the question of the day. Why the hell did he do that? But at any rate, the father, who was the shooter, he was able to go back to the bridge and get another gun and go shooting again.
So
Now,
wait, let me make sure I got this straight. So the guy who was the father, initially somebody else took his gun away. Took his gun away from him and just set him down, let him walk off and go get another gun.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, the guy who tackled him apparently is a follower of the Islamic doctrine. And the issue is he had stymied a jihadist warrior who was in pursuit of the goal of killing Jews. Now, in effect, that is an apostasy.
Right.
That's an apostasy because he's fought against Islam. Now, this guy who's the hero, Ahmed, he is now at risk. He's at risk because under the Islamic doctrine, he would be considered an apostate and could be killed.
Have they made any announcements on that? Do you know if there's been anything said about that? I mean, we know that's true, but
our research team, they've done a lot of work on it. We built a report on that and highlighted that very point, so that the message to the Australian government has our Prime Minister, Mr. Albanese, done anything about it? This is one of the things he should be doing, is assigning some security detail to protect this man from being killed. Not murdered, killed. His
family would be at risk as well, right?
Well, with Islam, I don't believe so. Under the doctrine, when Islam comes into a village, they generally kill the men, and the women and children are taken as slaves. Older people, and this is not. This is from the Islamic doctrine. This is Muhammad's modus operandi. What would happen is the women and children would be taken into slavery, men killed, and the older people also killed because they're of no use or valuable as slaves.
Right. Now, I think you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but you guys don't have, you certainly don't have a Second Amendment, and in the cities, it's hard for an average person to have a gun, correct?
Yeah.
And so, but the government wants to crack down even more. What are they going to do? What is it they think they're going to do that's going to make? I mean, whatever they were doing didn't stop this from happening. It just made a bunch of people targets.
Yeah, the idea of hate speech and anti-Semitism is all that we've heard. We've heard terrorism, we've heard the word terrorism, but we haven't heard the word jihad or the Islamic doctrine associated with any of that. When the question came up about how is the government dealing with terrorism, the conversation is diluted with right-wing terrorism, mums and you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
It's just to deflect people's eyes from what actually happened and have irrelevant conversations.
So how's that going over with the public, the sane public? How's that going over with them?
Australia won the cricket. I'm really disillusioned by people's apathy,
Bread and
by
circuses.
people's inability to
It's,
to see the risk, and see the need to do something about it. There's been 25 years of lone wolf. This is one of the other things that we had in Australia. I'm not sure whether you had it in America, but after 9/11 happened, there would be jihad attacks about the place, beatings, some murders, and they would say lone wolf, lone wolf.
Yeah.
How many lone wolves do you have before you have a pack?
yeah,
And then the conversation started with Al Qaeda, ISIS, Boko Haram, Muslim Brotherhood. So all of a sudden, they're systemic organizations, systemized organizations doing the same thing. And then there's countries that are lone wolf packs, like Iran, Yemen,
right.
Lebanon, Syria,
Yeah,
and the people, because we've been so isolated, so far away from these things, they're just headlines, and tomorrow they're fish and chip paper. They don't mean anything, and people just walk away from them as if they mean nothing, and they don't realise that when other parts of the world are taken over, like Europe's at great risk at the moment.
yeah,
At such a time, that'll move into somewhere else. And just because we're isolated, it doesn't mean that. And our navy is very much dependent on America for support, and we don't have much of a defence force. My nephew, he went to Duntroon, which is Australia's West Point, and he came back. He was talking about the things that he's being taught. He's being taught about how to address LGBT people and the people who are joining the armed forces for transgender surgeries and things like that. So when they're in the trenches, they can get their pronouns right. One thing that my mum was wild about was they go to university as part of their training. This is University of Sydney, and no offence, and I totally disagree with this, but America was a war criminal for the nuclear bombs on Japan. My view of that is that if I was a father, a brother, a cousin, a nephew of one of the guys on the ships waiting to go to Japan,
right.
I would be so happy that it was over and done with.
Yep.
It's a bit like, anyway, that's a side story.
Right.
But this is what the people in our defence forces are being taught.
Yep. Yep. Well, we've had the same problem, and I don't know how fast that they can. I know it's been addressed. I don't know how quick you can get all that stuff out of the system. And the other thing too is, even though you can stop, they've said they've stopped the DEI. I'm assuming they have, but the problem is they've been teaching it for several years now. Just like here in America, they've soft pedaled. They've downplayed Islamic terrorism. We're downplaying it right now. I mean, we're playing footsies and loving on Qatar, which is one of the world's main funders of terrorism, yet we're lecturing Europe about how they've allowed their countries to be taken over, although I noticed that Trump never mentions He says you've allowed your country to be taken over by migrants, but he never wants to mention that they're Islamist, and that's what the problem is. So has Australia in any way, shape, or form, at least in recent years, I mean, do they even acknowledge that there is Islamic terrorism, or is it all just, oh, there's something that we've done wrong and we haven't been sensitive enough to make sure that we don't insult them?
Yeah, look, it appears from an outsider looking in that our leaders, Mr. Albanese, isn't properly informed. And I'll give you an example. About 6 months before October 7 happened, they have these, and I hope you don't mind me telling my stories, but they sort of make the point.
Yeah.
They have an interfaith dialogue here in Australia, and I think you have that over there in America as well. All the different faiths, Hindu, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jews, Christians, Islam.
Garbage.
Come together.
Yeah.
Come together, and they say how wonderful their religions are, and et cetera, et cetera. So Mr. Albanese is there 6 months before October 7. He gives his speech, talks about the wonderful parts of interfaith dialogue. The Imam, Ibrahim Dawood, he gives the final prayer for the evening. Wonderful prayer. And to be giving the prayer at such an event in front of all the religious leaders, this guy's obviously at the very high end of the pecking order, most esteemed by his community to be doing that.
Right.
Okay. And this is recorded. I've got it on one of my videos. What happened was, when October 7 happened, on October 8 or October 9, he was out in the streets of Sydney saying, "I'm so proud, I'm so elated." He's screaming it like it's a call to war of the events of October 7. So had Mr. Albanese known that a man of this character, views and morals he was going to be in the company of, he would not have been at that event, I'm sure. Now, why does that happen? That happens because
what date was the event again? When was the event?
The event was about 6 months prior to October 7.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So it's not so much what Mr. Albanese knows, it's what his advisors have brought to him. So what have they been told about this guy? What's going on with this? And this comes back to our education program that we talked about earlier on, the high schools. The next part of our research, well, we were doing this, we came across lots of other questions that needed to be answered. What books are the kids reading through university? What are the courses and units that are being taught at university? Who's teaching them? What are they teaching about Islam? And of the last year, we've reviewed 8 of the top Australian universities. We've done bios, CVs on about 60 professors who specifically teach in an area. Now, not about Malaysia or Indonesia or Pakistan, but key parts of the doctrine, which is the law and the foundation, which is Muhammad, Allah, Sharia, Hadith. These are the things that drive Islam. So these professors all have in their courses or biographies those things. Now, one would expect that you would hear about Muhammad's as a warlord,
right,
murderer, assassin,
pedophile,
all of the, sorry?
Pedophile.
Well, okay, yes, yep. All of the types of things that cause the hatred and enmity towards the non-Muslim. But each of these professors do courses, okay, about the Quran. What about the Quran? Well, the Quran's got lovely poetic language. The old style language of Arabic has got these words and inflections and things like that. So all of the professors, okay, so there's 60 professors we've reviewed, 59 professors don't touch on any of those key words, the key words. And they don't. And when we've got the bio, we've said, okay, well, we need to do an assessment of what they've written about, where they've taught, all of this stuff. And we've found that all of them are whitewashing the true nature of Islam.
Yep.
There's one guy, his name is Benjamin Moshe Saul. He's a Jewish guy, so he's not Muslim. So he was teaching at one of the universities. He's no longer teaching there, but he taught about the harsh realities and the true nature of Islam towards a non-Muslim.
So he didn't teach there very long then, right?
Yeah. So what we're seeing now is all the people that are going through these universities, they've got a paper that says, oh, this guy's an expert on Islam. And when he wants to go to a law firm, he wants to go to finance, he wants to go to national security, law, enforcement, education, they'll say, oh, yeah, you're up to date on all this sort of stuff. That's great. Just what we need. Just what we need. And the idea there is that when they've been in their positions for 10, 20, 30, 40 years,
yep,
and starting to move up into positions of power, they're managers or department heads who are now in their 50s and 60s. And I never had any education on Islam when I was at school. I bet you didn't.
No.
Yeah? No, of course not. But as a manager now in national security, where do I go for an opinion? I go to these guys who are up and coming.
Right.
Hey, you went to university. You've studied all this sort of stuff. What's the caper? Oh, look, everything I heard was wonderful. Yeah. The problem is they've received a monopolistic view. They've received one view on Islam. They need to get a second opinion.
Yeah, they're not getting the whole truth.
Yeah.
They're not getting the whole
truth.
Yeah. Another way they do this in our country, and I'm sure they do it there as well, is the use of the term, and you hear it all the time, drives me up the wall, radical Islam. Well, there's only one doctrine of Islam, and it's all radical. And so they make it sound as if there's two different doctrines, like, okay, this guy's a good Muslim, this guy's a radical Muslim. There's only one doctrine. Now, that doesn't mean that every Muslim actually follows the doctrine, but there is only one doctrine.
Absolutely. So when you look at the education, and you can see that the good bits of Islam, the flowers and chocolates bits of Islam, is the only thing that's taught.
Yep.
And the other bit is excluded. What's left out? That's the bit that I think at the start of the show I mentioned about our politicians called out for. We need to know. We need to know about the Quran. We need to know about Muhammad. It's documented in our Hansard, our Secretary for Political Discussion, and the exact opposite has been presented and has been taught.
You said that they're only about 3% of your population, but they're obviously very much ingrained in the system, and they're fairly politically active. And you mentioned something about some of the other, the politicians are still trying to cater to them and get their vote, get their support. So they've given them a lot more. It sounds like they've given them more political power than they would rightfully have.
Yeah. So when the hard talk from the Islamic community, or the Islamic community, is directed towards the left are submitting. They're giving way as much as they can. But when the right side are hearing the hard language, and they're going, oh, they're dissatisfied, maybe we've got a chance of taking them over. But does that make sense?
No, doesn't make any sense. Not if you know the doctrine. So let me ask you this, though.
Yes.
Does other than you, is anybody speaking out over there? And if you speak out, or I'm assuming you're automatically censored or taken to court. Is that pretty much the way it is?
Well, I'm aware that there are 6 people in Australia who are doctors on Islamic studies who are not influenced by Islamic money or universities that are affected by Islamic money. Now, the issue there is they're involved from a religious point of view, and they've got the religious conversation and the political conversation happening together. And in that regard, I believe it sort of mixes up the conversation where you really need to be focused on the political side of things. The scope that we have takes off the religious component. We're really only interested in how the Islamic law is going to affect us.
Right.
The other people through our country, they might have gripes. They might read this or read that, but it's a very narrow bed of knowledge and information. CSPII has brought a very wide and deep understanding of the doctrine.
Right.
And once our country's leaders, influencers, and advisors get an understanding of that, they'll be falling off their chairs pretty darn quick. But it's a matter of being able to invite them to see. And when they see, it's pretty straightforward.
Have you guys had an uptick in people that are interested in what you're doing since the attack?
Look, since October 7, there's been a number of groups, organisation. Never Again is one. And October 7 is an international group.
Right.
But their mindset is already with trying to understand the doctrine and trying to support the Jewish people.
Okay.
Beyond that, I really believe our Australian population don't give credence or don't concern themselves with the Islamic doctrine, because from the media, from our politicians, from our churches, they don't say the words Islamic terrorism or jihad. They say terrorism. And when they do, they make excuses. They say either mentally deranged or this person's this and that. Yeah, we had two nurses from a hospital, from the same hospital in the same ward, allocated at the same time in the same ward, advising a Jewish guy that they have killed Jewish people in their care in a hospital in Australia. You didn't hear that one?
No.
Oh, it's incredible. Well, I'll pop you across the email to have a look at that. But these two nurses, night time, they got in contact with a Jewish social media guy. They were recorded, and from what I understood, it went worldwide. Maybe you guys in the backwoods of Tennessee are sort of missing out a little bit.
So these were two Muslim nurses that killed Jews they were taking care of.
Well, they said they did. And they said if any Jews come in there, don't come to don't come to our hospital. They will be dealt with, and it was terrible.
They still have a job?
But one of them got. They were taken to court. I believe they were put on non-paid leave or something like that. How that's all paid out, I don't pay too much attention to. There's bigger fish to fry, but it's interesting to know that people can gather together in the same hospital. What sort of coincidence is that?
Right. So there's been no uptick even since this last event at Bondi Beach. It doesn't seem to have affected the population. I mean, I'm sure obviously the Jewish citizens are more concerned, but what about the average Australian? Are they more concerned, or is it just like, didn't bother me?
Look, our network, which is part of what you're talking about now, how do we network and get the word out to people? I've written off to bowling clubs, RSLs, churches, schools, get an idea of what Islam is, how it's about. The conversation is they don't want to speak to us because of fear.
Are they afraid of the government? Or are they afraid of the Islamists, or both?
I don't think they're afraid of the government. Certainly not of the government. But if you go to book a room or a hall or something like that, and the understanding is the talk is about Islam, you don't have a place to do your talk.
And that's pretty much countrywide.
Well, I'm one guy, and my brief experience over the brief number of opportunities that I've had,
right,
doesn't allow me to be able to get my word out. So that should be the very reason why people are concerned about it and should be doing something about it.
Yeah.
If you're afraid to have a meeting in a hall, and you won't allow that to happen, my goodness.
Yeah. Now, we've had situations like that here in Tennessee. Even in Nashville, there were events where we were going to have speakers come in and talk about the threat of Islam, and we would have, the place would find out, oh no, we can't do. Either they would tell you up front they wouldn't do it, or they'd find out more details about it after they booked it, and then they would cancel it. That's happened before.
Yeah. And does that happen for any other type of event?
Not that I'm aware of. No.
Something is seriously worrying about that. And these are the sorts of things that have made me angry in myself, but also push my desire to do something about it, because I mentioned to you earlier, I'm a bit of a contrarian, but I don't like being bullied or told what to do unless there's good or fair reason.
Yeah.
And if your audience out there are thinking, well, I don't like being bullied or pushed around either, rather than being mad about it, you need to leverage your time, leverage the people you know, leverage your knowledge, and be able to use maybe videos like this, or the CSPII methodology, and be able to share it with people, because it is a second opinion and you haven't been exposed to a second opinion.
Yeah.
And rather than relying on the monopoly of the Islamic mosque or the Islamic community, you need to have a second opinion. I don't think any other business in America is allowed to have a monopoly other than the government.
Right.
Would that be right?
Pretty much.
Except maybe, yeah. So we have the same thing here in Australia. Rather than having one big bank, they maintain and make sure that there are 4 or 5 big banks, because you've got competition. We don't have competition with regards knowledge on Islam, and that's the biggest problem. And that all comes back to the education.
In America, because I've been following this topic for about 20 years now, and there are a lot of average people that know about the threat. You're starting to see some in our government finally acknowledge it. Not enough of them. You're starting to see that. But in a lot of cases, some of the average people at least, know about it, but the people that make the decisions, the people with the power to really do something about it, either don't know, or they're just like the elected officials over there, that they don't want any trouble. And those guys,
somebody else will do it.
Yeah, and they put us in danger. I mean, they make the situation worse than what it is. They ensure that bad things are going to happen because they're trying to ignore it. They're trying to blow it off as just, there's a few radicals out there. They're mostly, and like I say, that really started with George Bush and his lie about and I'll be honest with you, I don't understand how he could have stood by that. I mean, after a while, somebody had to bring him information that he was wrong, but I don't recall him ever coming out. In fact, I know that during that time, after that time frame, good people within our government that were trying to get the truth out were basically given a pink slip and told to shut up.
That was through the era of Brennan. I think he was a CIA manager.
Even before Brennan, even during the Bush administration, there were good people in the federal government and the FBI and other agencies that knew the deal and were trying to get the word out, and they were gotten rid of. It got worse under Obama. I mean, it definitely got worse under Obama. We don't have anybody right now that's filling in Trump. Apparently, Trump he thinks everything's just make a deal. Let's make a deal. If we make a good deal, everybody will be happy. And I say that because he's rightfully identified the issues in Europe, although he didn't say the Islamist. Yet, as I said earlier, we're playing all these games with Qatar, one of the leading financiers of terrorism, Islamic terrorism in the world. So I don't know if we're going to figure it out or not. I hope we figure it out pretty soon.
Yeah, well, Mr. Trump's, as you said, looks at things from a business lens, and he's very successful in what he does, and he's the president of the United States of America twice.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
But he has a view of that, and I don't think he really looks at or considers the ideological warfare that Islam brings to the table, and things like let's make a deal. A deal under Islam is underpinned by the Battle of Hayy or the treaty which allows followers of the Islamic doctrine to make a deal, and if a better alternative comes along, break it.
Absolutely.
And there are a number of different ways that can be used within Islam. I'll give you an example. I had a friend of mine who was I was debating the topic about, and she said that Islam's wonderful, and I said, we talked about truth and inaccuracies, and I mentioned that the Quran, through the Quran and the Sunnah, lying and deceit towards a brother or a sister of Islam is the most unconscionable thing to do. It's one of the greatest sins. It's a horrible shirk. And the Quran goes through all of these conversations about lying is bad. And then there's 20 pages of exceptions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's called taqiyya. I think that's one of the names for it in terms of the lying.
That's one of them.
Yeah.
That's one of them, yeah.
Now, you mentioned the website. So if somebody wants to get more information about what's going on in Australia or what's going on, the good thing about CSPI, it gives you a view of everything going on across the world. And you guys, are those articles weekly? I think we can pull this up here. CSPI is the website again. And we talked about this earlier. I don't know if we're going to be able to get it up or not. But you can basically go to the website, click on click on articles, and then you can scroll down, and you can subscribe, and it doesn't cost anything to get the articles. If you go down to the very bottom of the page, on the bottom left, you can subscribe, and you'll get the weekly articles. Now, can you select it just for country, or do you get the articles and it just covers whatever's hot for that week?
It'll cover everything. The great thing about it is you might go, I get too many darn emails. But the point about it is when something's happening, our news article talks about the event, but it also gives you Quranic references.
Right.
Now, one thing is you can be mad about this, complain about this, but using this to leverage activity amongst your friends, colleagues, like-minded people, maybe those you're having a debate about, will give you the truth from the bottom up. And getting involved and having something like this at your disposal can help. Might be a local member, your politician or congressman or whatever. Also maybe a church leader. A lot of the church leaders, we have a conversation about that one day, Dave.
Yeah, but they're complicit or AWOL, however you want to look at it. Same thing here.
Good.
Most of them don't have a clue, and the ones that do, for the most part, are AWOL. And as Bill Warner used to say, now that most of them were worthless, not all of them, just like 95% when it comes to this issue, but not all of them.
Yeah.
So
and look, a lot of it's out of their hands, but things like omitting the truth is kind of like telling a lie. That's one of the 10 Commandments. Yeah. And it makes me sad to say that, but that in itself's the truth.
You know, another thing with that website, it will give you a good overall view of what's going, how really, it's actually kind of scary to see how much power and influence and how thoroughly they've infiltrated so many parts of the world. But I mean, it's all true and it's all right there. So that's another reason it's a good resource. Hey, any closing thoughts? Anything else you want to leave the people with?
Well, I thought I'd sneak in there with leverage your anger through positive activity. Yep. Waiting for something bad to happen is not good enough. You've got to get out there and you see a problem, fix it, and that's what I reckon is valuable to do. So if you can use your time, we've got some newsletters, we've got some handouts. If you've got somebody who's interested to talk to us, we're available. Not only me, but other representatives from around the world, and we will help you any way we possibly can, because we is a team, and a team is you and us. So Thank you very much.
Well, hey, I
really enjoyed the conversation.
Appreciate you coming on. Definitely have you back. And when we had Bill Warner in Milan, and I don't recall his last name, but he's actually the co-founder. When I had him on last year, I told him that every now and then I wanted to bring in somebody from your organization. So you're the first one. There's others that are in Austria, Germany, and other places. So I'm going to every now and then try to get one of you guys on, and you can fill us in on what's going on in that part of the world. And you see the same thing. It's the same pattern, just over and over again. But I think it's important that people know that and see it. Well, hey, thanks again, and we'll definitely have you back. You have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to all your listeners as well. It's been great. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, we'll do it again for sure. I want to thank the audience for taking the time to watch our program tonight. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe, so please be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons, as well as the notification bell so you never miss an episode. We appreciate your support. Thanks again to David Baldovan for his generous donation and support. We really, really appreciate it. Check out our audio podcast on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and other platforms as well. Sign up for our weekly newsletter at our website, teeninformer.com. Find and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. A couple of announcements here. Hey, to all the listeners and subscribers, we would like to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And remember, there is no Christmas without Christ. There will be no second show tonight, but we will return on January 5th when our guest will be Tiffany Boyd to talk about legislation in the upcoming session designed to protect the rights of parents that homeschool and who the bad actors are that want to undermine their rights as parents. She will be followed that evening by Paul Graham, author and CEO of Shotwell Publishing, which was co-founded with Clyde Wilson. Paul will expose the false and unhistorical narratives being pushed by celebrities such as Mark Levin, Bill O'Reilly, V.D. Hansen, and others, and the negative impact of their deliberate distortions. This is especially in regard to the Civil War. Before we wrap up tonight, I want to take just a minute and speak directly to those of you who do watch the Tennessee Informer regularly. We understand that about 70% of you who watch regularly are not subscribed as of yet. We're very close to reaching 1,000 subscribers, and while that number may not sound huge in the world of YouTube, it means something to us because it represents real people who value thoughtful conversation and honest dialogue. If you watch the show and haven't subscribed yet, we'd be grateful if you consider doing that. Remember, it doesn't cost anything. Think of this as a small Christmas gift that helps us continue this work. Either way, we truly appreciate you being here. Hope you'll join us again when we return on January the 5th. That's it for now. Good night from Paris, Tennessee, that is.